You're listening to Brick by Brick, a podcast by the Brownstone Experience. I am Felicia, and I will be interviewing women of color entrepreneurs on the couch, where we will learn more about their products, services, and how we can support them. Enjoy. Hello, hello.
Hey,
How
girl.
are you?
I'm doing amazing.
Yes, I'm so glad that you are here with me, Dr. Aletha Miller. The intro has already played, and so I guess I've already heard a little bit about you. But let's hear about who you are in your own words. Who is Aletha Miller?
Who am I? So as I look at, myself in general, I kind of start back as how did I get to where I am right there?
Mm-hmm.
How did I evolve from childhood to the person that I am today?
Mm-hmm.
So I look back to when I was in third grade and I was called the Jolly Green Giant, made me insecure, had no desire to be tall, didn't want to wear heels, didn't want to wear anything that made me look more tall, and shared that information with my mother, And what she did was to put me around tall women who were beautiful, tall women who were confident, and began to introduce me to those type of women. And then what I noticed that although it was their appearance, their stylishness that initially attracted me to them, it was really about their confidence and how they stood in the room and to take their space. And that led me to want to take my space for who I was created to be.
Take up space.
That's what gave me the passion to want to teach other women and to empower other women to walk in their unique footprint, to be comfortable taking up space. So I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a boss in the professional world. I'm a psychologist by degree. But most of all, I'm just an ordinary woman doing extraordinary things, and I want to do it with other extraordinary women.
That's awesome. You are definitely all of those things, baby. And I want to just thank you for being here, for saying yes. Our story and how we met and how we've connected over the last year, because Brick by Brick has been on an extended break, and you are my first guest since I returned, and you spoke life into me over the last year through the transition. It was just a transition of life, right? We go through mountains and valleys. And one thing you kept saying to me is, that's your superpower. You're operating in your superpower. And I had never had anyone to say that to me. And so that is one of the reasons I wanted to have you today, because you take up space, you compliment other women, and you have this knack for, again, saying what our superpowers are. And I think for a woman who hasn't been told that before, that can kind of make you sit up straight. Like, well, what is she talking about? So I definitely wanted to share, definitely around Mother's Day. Right. As moms, we can definitely, I would almost say, positively lose ourselves in becoming moms, but we're still women, right? The little third grade girls are still up under there.
Absolutely.
As we're raising these kids. And so we need to be able to identify our superpowers and take care of ourselves in the meantime, because that's basically what happened to me. I kind of ran myself into the ground.
Absolutely.
Chasing dreams. And so thank God, what don't kill you make you stronger. What did you learn about yourself in the process of getting yourself to where you are today?
I mean, that's just a loaded question.
Right.
I mean, as women, we really understand that. One thing that I learned was that balance is an arbitrary word. And it's an arbitrary word that the world has placed on us as something for us to accomplish, which is very difficult to accomplish depending on how you perceive it. So as I have move through this walk and kind of develop myself throughout my career, personally, professionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I really chose to shift my focus on it being what does it mean to be perfectly imbalanced?
Yeah. What does that look like for me?
Right. So what does that look like for me? Because I'm a mom, I have 3 kids. I have a 14-year-old son, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and then I have a 9-year-old daughter. I've been married for 18 years. I have a mother who's a widow, who's amazing and one of my best friends. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I'm a boss at work. I have all these things. So I basically have all these balls that I have to juggle.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Can you really juggle all of these balls in balance? Can you really be 100% mom, 100% friend, 100% in all of these particular roles? Can you give all of that? And I realized that it's not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So I had to see, well, then how do I become perfectly imbalanced? What does that really look like? And God just kind of revealed that to me. He just said, really, you can only juggle all of the balls that have been put on your plate if you consult me. So I started to consult him. What should I do today? What ball should I pick up today? What ball could I put down? And then things started to become balanced. I wasn't so anxious about, I didn't do this for the kids' school, or, I didn't sign that. Well, it turned out that they canceled that anyway. And you needed to do this, but this was due today. So it was really more about me redefining what balance really is. What does that mean to me?
Yeah. My therapist once gave me the example of juggling the balls. And she said, we get anxious when we look at the balls as being glass. She said, what if you had to, first off, they're not glass, they're plastic, right? She said, I think she asked me to pick which ones would be glass and then which ones could be plastic. And if I had to drop 2 of them, which ones would I drop?
I like it.
And that really caused me to think through, because we cannot accomplish everything that we think we can in one day. And I don't even think that it necessarily has to happen. It's just, again, that pressure we put on ourselves.
It's the pressure that we put on ourselves as women. It's the pressure that we put on ourselves as Black women. And a lot of that has just come through our ancestors' challenges of life and having to work their way to everything and against all odds, So I think that mentality is that we were primed and raised to do it all. And if somebody else drop the ball, you pick it up, So I think that's key. I love what she said. If you had to drop some, then what would it be?
Yeah.
And besides that, they're not glass.
Yeah.
They're plastic anyway. The world is not going to end if you don't pick up that ball. And in reality, what really happens and what I learned is that when you pause, you give other people the opportunity to pick up a ball.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that we're missing those spaces, and we're missing the opportunity to give other people who actually want the opportunity to help you,
Yes, absolutely. So we have to learn this by a lot of times burnout, a lot of times waking up, looking in the mirror, not recognizing ourselves, having nervous breakdowns.
Absolutely.
We have to hit rock bottom to recognize that we are now tremendously probably imbalanced, right?
Absolutely.
What does that look like for you? Have you been there before?
Absolutely. I have been tremendously imbalanced in all kinds of ways. All right. Feeling like I might have lost control at home with my kids, that I can't be at 3 places at one time. Feeling that relationships that I was in wrong kinds of relationships, being pulled in so many different directions. And it's a space, I think for me, I'm very athletic. So I work out at 5 a.m. every morning. I get up. I didn't do it this morning, though, y'all. I didn't want to mess up my hair.
That's right.
So,
we ain't getting our steps in today.
We have to get our steps in or whatever.
Don't get us tapped.
Right. I get up and I work out and I fracture my foot. And I didn't fracture my foot running. Athletes don't fall. So I was walking up the stairs and my foot slipped.
Okay.
And because athletes don't fall, I braced my fall. I didn't fall, but because I braced my fall, I fractured my foot. And that was bad for me. I couldn't go into work because of where I work. Then my boot would be considered as a weapon. So I couldn't go into work. I had to work tele. I had to do telework, which I don't like to do that all the time. So I couldn't do that. I couldn't work out. So I stayed at home and I just ate. I ate all my kids' snacks.
All the snacks.
I ate my kids' snacks, everything they had, and I gained about 35 pounds. And finally, God was like, wake up. What are you doing? This is what you do for a living. You are imbalanced. Spiritually, you're imbalanced. Physically, you are imbalanced. Get up. It's not about what you can't do. It's about what you can do. And I had to shift my focus at that time. And then, as you know, I went on a journey, and I think you're on that journey with my girl, Irie.
Yes.
Now. And I shifted my focus. I shifted my focus physically. I started to spend more time with God, which I had gotten off track from doing. And I started to focus on what I could do. I can do sit-ups. I can do, lift weights on my arms, and all that kind of stuff. I can do those things. And it gave me that opportunity to kind of begin to pull myself back. And then also me, even as a psychologist, I have to have somebody to talk to. I think that the world has really stigmatized getting mental health treatment, and the reality is that if you address these things early, if you address the anxiety, the sadness, the depression, and everything before it turns into a full-blown disorder, you have the opportunity to grab that thing and take it down and say, you're not going to have control over me.
Yes.
You have that opportunity.
Yes.
So doing that and then talking to my community.
Yes.
Instead of isolating myself, getting out to my community and saying, hey, girl.
That's huge. I was looking at like the 4 pillars of your brand, right? And one of them is suffering out loud. I thought that was so just timely, because one of the things I shared with my readers of Brownstone last year, almost every time I would communicate, I would say that I'm going through a rough time. When I saw people in public, I shot down that, not telling them, girl, I'm just getting myself together. And although on the surface, it might have felt a little weird, right? What they say, I want to tell my business, or social media is a highlight reel. It actually felt really deeply human, and people will show you love if you let them know that you're going through it.
Absolutely.
So why is suffering out loud one of the pillars of your brand?
Right. So suffering out loud is something that's important. It really is, because if you think about when you connect with people, it's through transparency. So when people feel you're transparent about what's happening in your life, and they realize that they're not alone. So a lot of times I feel like that I've been sitting next to one woman on my right side, one woman on my left side. We probably silently going through the exact same things, whether it's marital, whether it's a wayward child, whether it's dissatisfaction at work. We're going through the exact same thing, but all of us are going to leave there the exact same if we don't talk to each other.
We don't talk about it.
So you want to be transparent. And so for me, it's that when you are going through something, you want to share so that people know that they are not alone and that they have the ability to rise up above that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't want to kind of beat a dead horse. What do you think are some of the signs of, being chronically imbalanced as a woman?
Right. So I think there's a number of different signs, but one of them I think is when your boundaries are non-existent. So one of the things that it hit you, it'll hit you.
That word boundaries.
That word boundaries will hit you every time, because, and I like to let people know that most of the time when we're in a difficult space, whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever, it's because we have non-existent boundaries. We don't have any boundaries. And what I found in my life is that when I was exhausted, when I didn't have boundaries, it was because I was seeking affirmation from you and this person and that person and not from God. So I said yes to things that I didn't want to say to, but I wanted them to need me. I needed people to need me because of my own personal insecurities, which meant I needed to check myself. I needed to deal with my own insecurity. And so that led me to not want to set boundaries because I was thriving for an affirmation from people that should only come from God. And so I think that's one clear sign. When you realize that people can call you in the middle of the night that are not committed to your purpose and you still get up, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a red flag. And I think that's one of the main red flags. When you realize that you're exhausted mentally and you're exhausted, physically, and you stopped doing the things that you enjoy. Yeah. That's a red flag. Or everything is a task. That's a red flag. When you walk in a room and you feel like you got to dim your light, you're in the wrong room. So those are the types of things that I feel like are red flags that indicate that we're in balance. But boundaries, having no boundaries, that's the number one. Right?
That's the number one. It'll get you there quicker than anything else.
It'll get you there quicker, and I'll be like, I got boundaries. Yes. My kids know on Wednesday is Wednesday hair day. Yeah. Are you in the emergency room? Yeah. Is your father present there? He is? Okay. Be there when I'm done. Yes. All right. Yes. This is what's happening on Wednesday. Because there's nothing that I can do because this is what's happening. Mommy has boundaries.
That is so good. Ooh, you didn't bless my life. I think my kids go with their grandma in about a month to Alabama. Listen. And I think I'm going to work on that for the next month because I'll probably crack. And they're younger, right? So younger kids are much more demanding. Oh, yeah. But I think that as they grow up, right, as you've experienced, you have to set boundaries with them.
Absolutely. I think we were talking and you had asked a question about what do we tell our daughters, what do we tell our kids? I think there's two key things. One is to be transparent with them. So one of the things, I had a patient before and she said, I actually have a sign on my door and I had it's a cute little sign and it says, me time from this time to this time. So the kids know that unless the house is on fire, don't come in here, my room before this time. Yeah. Setting up those boundaries early on in life, even when they're babies, even when they're young. What does that look like? What are you doing, Mommy? Why do you close your door? Mommy has to have quiet time. Mommy has to have quiet time so that she can love on you and have the energy to play the games with you. So that means Mommy has to be in the room for an hour.
And that's going to bless somebody. It's going to bless because I think that we sometimes think that being available to our children 24/7 is a sign of being a good mom. But it goes back to that cup. If your cup is empty, because you've been touched up and filled up and rubbed up on a call for 24 hours a day, how are you, possibly being your best self for the kids? So
absolutely.
Those boundaries, yes.
I totally agree with that. And then it also sets an example for them that they need to be all things to all people at all times, even if it's inconvenient for them. So I look at it now as that I'm not all things to all people at all times, even if it's inconvenient for me. Convenience for me is important because it's important for my self-care. That's something that's very important. Like you said, if I want to be the best mom that I can be, if I want to be the best wife, then that requires me to make sure that I take time to restore myself.
Yes. That's so good. That's so good. So you said one thing. We're gonna kind of turn a little bit to your favorite topic. My favorite Dr. Miller topic is superpowers, right? What is a superpower? How do you define that?
Right. So for me, superpowers is a thing because I felt like that, as a young child and like I said, being called a Jolly Green Giant. One thing that I recognized when I was younger, one of my superpowers was that I was fast. And so I can walk down any boy, I can walk down any girl, anywhere. And then later on,
you said you could walk them down. You
can walk them down barefooted in the street. Okay,
let's go.
Right, let's go. And so that was one of the things that being tall helped me to do quicker than some people and more effortlessly than some people. And so that was one of my little superpowers. It also kind of made me a little more popular. So I was the smart kid. So I was the one that messed up the curve. But when I got to school and I started running and winning, then it balanced. There was some kind of level of balance. And now people looked at me differently.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's a thing. What is that? What is that? And so that was kind of what I was doing. I was like, this is a unique footprint for me. This is something that I have that's unique that I can utilize, So a superpower is a unique footprint. It's what makes you you. And it doesn't mean that other people don't do things similar to you. I mean, there's a lot of hairstylists.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stylists, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. There are a lot of different people. But there's what makes it unique to you, something that's unique to you. That's what your superpower is, And then I even dive deeper into, well, how do I see my way to my superpower? How do I do that? So there's a lot of steps to that. So I'm going to kind of minimize it, to a few steps that
because how do you get to it, right? I think, one of my favorite, conversations to have with younger people. I'm in my higher education on college campuses all the time, and I can see them trying to figure the world out. And the world will tell you so many things that you're supposed to be, not be, when don't nobody know for real, right? And so by the time you become an adult, I would say 25, 26, now you feel like, okay, I may hopefully have the courage to go after what is my own superpower. So how do you get to that?
Right. So I think there's a number of different ways to do that, a number of different steps in order to get there. But I think first of all, you want to stop committing to people who are not committed to your purpose. It's so important.
Stop committing to people who are not committed to your purpose.
Just think about all the people that are around you that you're helping. And they're not committed to your purpose. They're just committed to doing what they're doing. It might inconvenience you, but they're not respecting what you're doing. So it's setting a boundary.
Yeah.
The type of people you want around you. That's something that's key. So that's one of the things you want to do is to stop committing to people who aren't committed to your purpose, because you really can't identify your superpower until you do some of these things that I'm telling you about.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
It's like uncovering.
You have to uncover it because your mind is so wrapped up in what does the world say about this? What does the world say about that? What does my friend say? What does this person say? What does that person say? Well, they told me I wasn't really that good at this. And they told me I wasn't really that great at that. They told me this was a long shot. And you have to, you have to detangle all of that.
Yeah.
That's what's important, is to detangle all of that. So you want to stop committing to people who are not committed to your purpose. You want to stop comparing yourself to other people. And so that's something that's key, because if we think about it, I saw this visualization of somebody who was in the gym. Y'all know I like to go to the gym, right? So this person was in the gym, and then there was somebody beside them that was skinnier. Okay. So then they were running or whatever. And then somebody beside them next, then they got skinnier. because they wanted to be like that person. Then the next person beside them, but they looked over there and that person was even more skinny. So then they got more skinny. Then they went to the next person and that person, and every time they got skinnier, it was somebody else that was skinnier, right? So if you stay in the midst of continuing to compare yourself to other people, then you can't focus on what were you gifted to do, because you're too busy trying to be like somebody you were not created to be.
Yes.
So that's another one. Stop competing. So the world it's nothing wrong with healthy competition. When I ran track, you know what I'm saying, and different things like that. I mean, it gave me an adrenaline rush. I'm definitely not against any of that. Or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But when we're competing against people, then it prohibits collaboration and connection. And we were not designed to function alone. If you stop competing, then you can start collaborating. And it's when we put our superpowers together is when magic happens.
Yes.
So if you are so intent on, well, I got to beat Felicia. Felicia got a podcast. I'm going to get a podcast. Guess what? I don't even have a clue of how to even start a podcast, think a podcast, be a podcast, find somebody who is. I got to start from ground zero to even be like Felicia.
Yeah. When I could just be a guest.
Right. When I could just be a guest. I got my makeup done this morning, my hair done on Wednesday, and came up in here with some cute clothes that I asked Felicia to tell me what to wear, by the way, whatever. And then I came and sat on this nice couch.
Yeah.
And so that those types of things are really key. And then it frees you up to be confident in your decision to stop giving your superpower out as if it's a complimentary prize. So a lot of times we say, this is what one woman told me before. She said, how do you identify? I said, how do you identify what you want to do? What you want to find what you would do for free and then don't go get paid for it.
It's so interesting that you say that, because what I find with a lot of Black women, we're servants, naturally, and a lot of it comes from our past, right?
Absolutely.
Our ancestors. We feel guilty about getting paid for our superpower.
Absolutely.
And we just got to overcome that. You got to set the price. I don't even know if it's, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think that we do feel guilty about it. I think, I've been doing it for free for so long. So, I mean, why would people don't want it? Or we feel that we don't have something that people would pay for, but we never know because we never ask, because we're too busy giving it out as a consolation prize.
There it is.
I'm not a consolation prize. Anything that he has gifted me to do is not a consolation prize. So I think that there's this balance between what aspect of my superpower, or, plurally, what aspect of me am I going to donate? What that time? Time is money.
That's right.
So there are aspects of us, we tend to think that the only way for us to give to people is to not charge them. Well, if I if I donated my time at this event and that event or whatever, I still could charge you.
Yeah.
So I think that it's just important for you to start trusting that the people that you were created to serve will pay for your service.
Yes. Now, y'all, I was, like I said, in a valley last year, and you walked you were saying all this stuff. And I'm like, why is she saying all this stuff to me? And when I would make a decision on what you hired me to do, you wouldn't question it. You said, because you're operating in your superpower. Like, just complete, and just, you came as proof that God got a lane for you. And you can walk in it, and you can go home, and you can spend time with your family, and you can do all of these things and not be, like what you said, complimentary.
Yeah, you don't have to be a complimentary.
Yeah, you don't have to give it to a consolation prize. Sorry. Yeah, and so I think that a lot of us should do a deep dive on this.
Absolutely.
Finding out what our superpower is.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's just, what do you love to do? I think really that's where you start.
Yeah.
What do you love to do so much that you would do it for free? And if you think about it, when I first started, and I don't know if I even shared this story with you, but when I was at school, this is kind of when I realized this. So I was in 5th or 6th grade. So I was in middle school, and my mom got called up to the school. Now, mind you, y'all, I don't get in trouble.
Okay.
It's not that kid. All right. I'm too scary. All right. So my mom got called up to school, and they called her in and was like, oh, what's going on? And she was like, well, your daughter has been giving advice to the girls on the playground, and she's been helping them to solve their problems.
Wow.
She said, oh, okay. She was like, okay. So what kind of advice was she giving? Was she giving bad advice? What was she doing? Oh, no, ma'am. She wasn't giving good advice. That's not the problem. The problem is that she's not licensed to do it. Right? Okay. And so she said, oh, okay. I can help you with that, but I just kind of wanted to know, what was she doing? She was mediating their problems. She was getting them to try to stop fighting. And we have a counselor here for that. And so she says, okay, I totally understand that. You're accurate. I can help her understand that.
Yeah.
But from there, my mother took that and then started creating opportunities for me to do what I naturally did. So I had the opportunity to start a community choir when I was in high school. I hosted all the study groups in calculus and all those different types of whatever AP classes I was in. I was able to have small groups at her home and have small groups, from my church to be at her house. She's always created an atmosphere for me to bring people together.
Yeah.
Because that's what my desire is. It's to bring women with all different types of superpowers together, to work together, to create something spectacular.
Yes.
And so I have the opportunities to pour into people. And then I said, well, then why not? If I've been doing this all this time for free, I might as well go ahead and get a degree. So I went straight from kindergarten all the way to my doctorate degree.
And here we are.
I didn't stop. And here we are today.
I love that. I think the last thing I want to touch on is about your brand specifically, is you talk about insecurities and how that comes out. Right. One thing you talk about is giving compliments. And I just think that's huge. You can give someone a compliment and change their day. And women really struggle with that. And it creates a lot of situations and traumas for a lot of women. So what are your thoughts on insecurities and compliments? Giving compliments.
There's life and death in the power of the tongue. So I think that when you recognize the power that you have to empower other people, if we can get everyone to do that, then you shift to a world of life instead of a world of death. And so you have a lot of people walking around here who are dead inside.
Wow.
And so every time that I am given an authentic compliment to someone, it's because I want to give life. It's because I decided to stop dimming my light. It doesn't matter what room that I'm in. I walk into a room and I confidently believe that I have the ability to shift the atmosphere. I can choose to shift the atmosphere negatively, and I can choose to shift the atmosphere positively. That's my choice.
And that point right there is huge. Because I think, first you got to have the awareness of what you just said, right? That you can shift the room. But then understanding that you can shift it either way.
Either way. That part. And that's what people forget. They feel like if I go into a room where the energy is negative, then I have to join in. That's not the type of room I want to be in.
Yeah, maybe I need to. Yeah,
and if I go in there and I give something different, and they don't receive it, I'm in the wrong room because I shouldn't have to come into a room and dim my light.
Yeah. This just it brings up so much for me. You know, we deal with so many microaggressions at work with Black women, right? We can walk in, ain't got nothing to do with our work. But it's all we getting compliments on our hair, and I say compliments, but it ain't gotta be comments.
Comments, right?
Comments on your hair, your outfit, and all of that, you know. And so now we are working to balance out the energy, you know, or positive energy. And so I just hope that we remember that, you know, our light can shift to any room, you know, whether it be professionally or personally.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, just that whole working to figure out that balance. I think one of the things that I recognize that really I think will help women everywhere as we go through these struggles in general is that when people are saying things about me, it's really more about their own insecurities than it is about me. That's their issue, not my issue. If all you can walk in to the room and say is something, a compliment about my hair or my fly shoes or my outfit, that's because you can't bring yourself to talk about the power that comes out of my mouth. That doesn't have anything to do with me. That's not my problem. That's your problem. And so that is just another step towards moving yourself into a different direction. Because now we don't have to solve that problem. We don't have to solve the problem of the glass ceiling. We can just be the people that walk through it. We don't have to solve that problem. We don't have to solve the problem of the perceptions that they have of women or of Black women, of what we should do and what we should not do. We can just be who we were called to be. And when you just be, people begin to accept and to walk into that space. You just be, because there's no movement around who Felicia is. There's no movement around who Aletha is. That's who she's gonna be. She's not gonna change. Whether you give her a compliment about her hair or whether you give her a compliment about that dissertation that she wrote, whether you give her a compliment about her clothes or whether you give her a compliment about that award and that research project that she just completed. It doesn't matter. She's still the same.
Yes.
She's still the same. So I can't move her. Let me move to the next person.
Yes.
So if we all just stand strong,
yes,
we don't have to try to be the person to fix the problem.
Yes.
We can just keep walking in our purpose.
I could feel the power. Like I'm sitting next to you and I can feel it, and you better close us out. That was amazing. That was amazing. Thank you so much. So tell everyone where they can find you next. Online, socials, in person. Right. So I'm on Facebook as Dr. Aletha Miller. I'm on Instagram as well as Aletha Miller as well. But in the next event that I'll be able to speak at will be at TCU. Okay. In Dallas. It'll be in the Fort Worth area. It'll be September the 28th. That's a Saturday. And it's called Disrupt Her. Okay. All right. And it's called Disrupt Her. It's a summit for women. Okay. And that's where I'll be. And then I'll be posting some stuff about it later on. That. Well, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for having me. Of course. You know, we got this power in this room together. We got this. All right. Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, like, and share so that others will learn about Brick by Brick by the Brownstone Experience. You can also learn more about our guests by going to our website, The Brownstone Experience.